The first scream wasn't loud. It was sharp. A needle through the soft hum of the morning coffee shop. Let go of me. Every head snapped toward the sound, but I was already moving. A tall man in a charcoal suit, expensive, tailored, and smug, had a woman by the wrist, fingers digging so hard her skin reddened. She stood stiff, shoulders squared, but her voice shook just enough to betray fear. "No," she said. I said no. Daniel. Daniel. Even his name sounded punchable. I didn't know her, didn't know him, but something inside me reacted instantly, like a switch being slapped on. Maybe it was because my 10-year-old daughter, Harper, was watching from our table by the window with wide, questioning eyes. Maybe it was because of everything we'd lived through the past 2 years, the abandonment, the cheating, the divorce, the way her mother walked out without a backward glance. Or maybe it was because I knew exactly what it felt like to not be listened to. I stepped between them. "Hey," I said, voice low, steady. "She asked you to let go." The man blinked at me as if I had offended him by existing. "This isn't your business," he hissed. "It is now." The woman stared at me, breath caught halfway in her chest. Up close, I could see she was striking, dark hair in soft waves, green coat draped over her shoulders, eyes that were both guarded and burning. She didn't look fragile. She looked furious. Still, she looked like she needed someone to stand there. Daniel scoffed. "Do you have any idea who you're interfering with?" "Nope," I said, "but I know who you're hurting." His face darkened, jaw clenching, but he released her wrist. She stepped back quickly, rubbing the red marks for just a moment before stopping herself, as if she didn't want to give him the satisfaction of seeing pain. I positioned myself slightly between them. "You okay?" I asked her quietly. She nodded once, curt, composed beyond reason. "Yes, thank you." Daniel glared at me like he wanted to lunge, but instead he spat, "This isn't over," and stormed out, shoving the glass door so hard it rattled. The woman exhaled shakily. The barista whispered, "Holy crap," and someone clapped softly. I glanced back at my daughter. She sat ramrod straight, hands around her hot chocolate, eyes sparkling like she'd just seen her dad become a superhero. Her smile bolstered something inside me, something I hadn't felt in a long time. The woman took another breath and met my eyes. "I appreciate what you did." "No problem," I said. "Some guys don't understand the word no." "Some." Her brow lifted, a touch of wry humor breaking through. "I'd argue most." I gave a tired half-smile. "Fair." We stood there a moment, long enough for me to feel the hum of adrenaline turning into something else. Awareness, maybe, recognition, something I couldn't quite name. She extended her hand. "I'm Elena." I shook it. Her grip was strong, warm. "I'm Ryan." A small smile touched her lips. "Well, Ryan, you have impeccable timing." "Dad!" Harper called from the table. "Is everything okay?" "Yeah, bug," I said over my shoulder. "Oh, good." When I turned back, Elena's gaze softened. "Your daughter." "My whole world," I said without thinking. She nodded gently, eyes flicking to Harper with an expression I couldn't decode. Admiration, maybe, or longing, or something private I wasn't meant to see. "You're a good father," she said. "You don't know that." I know what I saw. Her certainty sent a warmth through me I didn't want to acknowledge. Not now. Not with a stranger. Not with my life the way it was, messy, bruised, stitched together by necessity rather than faith. But somehow, she'd seen right through me. Before I could say anything, her phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen and her entire posture changed. Shoulders tightening, jaw setting, eyes going cold and distant. "Everything okay?" I asked. "Yes," she said. Too quickly. "I should go. Thank you again for stepping in." She slipped past me and walked toward the door with a grace that belonged in a different world. A place of penthouses and private drivers, not crowded coffee shops where single dads tried to stretch paychecks until the end of the month. The barista muttered, "Well, that was dramatic." I just stood there, trying to shake off the sense that something had happened, something more than a stranger thanking me, something that would follow me. Later that day, The morning faded into errands, laundry, the small domestic rituals that kept life moving even when I felt stuck. By late afternoon, the coffee shop encounter had settled into a strange, vivid memory, one of those moments that replayed in unexpected flashes. Like when I saw the faint bruise forming on Elena's wrist as she reached for her purse. Or when I recalled Daniel's sneer, the entitlement in his voice. Or when I remembered the way she'd looked at me, like she was memoizing me. By the time I picked Harper up from her after-school art club, the sky had turned a hazy gold. "Dad," she said as she climbed into the car, "are you thinking about that lady from the coffee shop?" Kids, brutally observant when you least expect it. Maybe a little, I admitted. Mostly I'm thinking about how you're getting better at drawing dragons. She giggled. "Dad, you're being weird." Probably. But that night, after she was asleep and the apartment was finally quiet, the weirdness settled into something prickling and uneasy. A question I couldn't shake. Why did Elena look terrified when she checked her phone? 2 days later, life went back to its routine. I didn't expect to see her again. So when I walked into the same coffee shop Wednesday morning and saw Elena sitting alone at a corner table, I froze. She wasn't wearing the green coat today, just a cream sweater and dark jeans. But her posture was tighter, her fingers tapping anxiously on the ceramic mug in front of her. Her eyes lifted slowly, lingering on me. Recognition flickered first, then relief, and then something heavier. I approached cautiously. "Mind if I?" "Sit," she said, almost before I finished. "Please." I pulled out the chair. Up close, she looked exhausted. The kind of tired that came from emotional war, not lack of sleep. "I've been hoping to run into you," she said softly. "Oh." I blinked. Good hoping, or worried hoping? Both. She laughed under her breath, but it wasn't real. "I owe you an apology." "For what?" "For the other day. I shouldn't have involved you." "You didn't involve me," I said. I stepped in. Her eyes warmed. "Maybe, but still, that man is dangerous." I felt a chill crawl up my spine. "Daniel." "Yes." "Dangerous how?" Her jaw flexed, then relaxed. I could tell she'd been rehearsing what to say, or avoiding it. "He's my ex-fiancé." "That checks out," I muttered. She smiled faintly. "And he doesn't like being told no. He thinks he owns me, my time, my decisions, my life. That's not how people work. You'd be surprised how often some men forget that." She looked away, fingers curling into a fist. "He's been following me," she admitted, "showing up where I am, calling from blocked numbers, threatening to expose me. It's escalating." "Expose you for what?" "Existing on my own," she said bitterly. I studied her, really studied her this time. The posture, the tension, the contained fury. This wasn't just a breakup. This was someone running from something toxic. "Have you gone to the police?" She laughed once, hard. "It's complicated." Complicated or futile? I didn't push. "What about friends? Family?" Her gaze dropped. Silence answered for her. A strained protective instinct rose in me. Inappropriate, irrational, but undeniable. "Do you need help?" I asked. She looked at me, startled, as if the concept itself was foreign. "I don't want to pull you into my mess." "Too late," I said gently. "You look like you're drowning." She inhaled sharply, like she'd been caught. Then, quietly, We sat there, an invisible thread tightening between us. A thread made of fear and trust, and something else I didn't dare put a name to. After a long moment, she said, "Can I tell you something and trust you won't run out the door?" I raised a brow. "That depends. Are you secretly a serial killer?" A ghost of a smile touched her lips. "No, but what I'm about to say might make you think I'm lying." "Try me." She exhaled, bracing herself. "I'm not just Elena. I'm Elena Serrano." The name hit me like a light bulb popping. "You mean Serrano Industries, the investment group, aren't they?" "Yes." Her voice was almost a whisper. "I'm part of that Serrano family." which makes you a billionaire. She shrugged one shoulder. Unfortunately, my jaw slackened. Jesus. Please don't look at me like that, she said. It's already hard enough to talk about. I shook my head quickly. Sorry, I'm just caught off guard. Most people would be. I don't tell people, she said. Ever. But I wanted you to know because Daniel doesn't want me. He wants my money, my name, my connections. Losing me means losing his entire ladder to the top. And that's why he's stalking you. Yes. I leaned back slowly, letting it sink in. I defended a billionaire in a coffee shop without having the slightest clue. She rubbed her wrist absently. When you stepped between us the other day, no one's ever done that for me, not without wanting something in return. I wasn't expecting a reward, I said. I know. Her eyes softened. Too much. Enough to make something flutter in my chest I wasn't prepared for. She hesitated. Ryan, could you stay a little longer? Just talk? I feel safer when you're here. Dangerous words. Too intimate. Too heavy. But I found myself nodding anyway. Yeah, I said. I can stay. And as she exhaled in relief, I didn't realize, not yet, that this simple yes would cost me far more than I could imagine. She talked in fragments at first, small confessions like pebbles tossed across the table, each one revealing more of the chasm beneath. My parents built everything, Elena said, tracing a ring on her finger, though the ring was plain, almost modest. My last name opens doors. It also clicks lockbolt behind people. Sounds lonely, I said. It is, she admitted. But wealth isn't the only loneliness. There's also obligation. People who think they own you because you can buy them access. Men who think affection is transactional. I watched her closely. The sunlight through the window made a halo around one side of her face. The other side held a tiredness that didn't disappear when she smiled. Her hands were small but scarred in ways that implied more than a single story, years of stifled anger, perhaps, or a life that had required careful maneuvering. You should have bodyguards, I said, because what else do you say when a billionaire says she's being threatened? She snorted softly. They get in the way. People notice them. And what do you do when the person threatening you is first at dinner and last to leave the party? When he's charismatic and knows how to play the victim? When he whispers to the right people at the right time? That sounds like someone who knows how to manipulate people more than someone who's actually dangerous. I counted. He is both, she said. And Daniel has influence. He used to work with one of our smaller subsidiaries, knew where to put pressure. He's been quiet for a while. Then he re-emerged and started calling, and the threats got specific. What does he want? I asked. She looked at me with an odd expression, half amusement, half weariness. Things people often want when they think they were owed upward mobility. Money, a title, the feeling of being significant. He wants to be part of the family. And when I said no, he decided to make me pay. Have you thought of going public? Expose him? I mean, if it's harassing you, the law should. She cut me off. You don't get it. If I go public, Daniel uses his charm to make me the villain. He says I bought affection. He paints me as cold, as a woman who denies love because she can. The media eats that up. My board gets nervous. They make moves. People I trust lose their positions. The company's stock dips. Thousands of workers, families, lose security. The ripple effect isn't theoretical. Her voice was small by the end, like she'd given the argument 1,000 times and now was tired of defending herself to strangers. I felt a prickle of something like guilt. In my world, consequences were usually smaller. Rent missed, a job lost, a relationship ended. But the scale she described was different, and yet the underlying pain was the same. People forced to choose between survival and integrity. So you're stuck, I said. Stuck, she echoed, but I'm trying to move. She glanced at her phone, the screen lit with incoming messages, the kind you ignore in front of someone to avoid the radar of prying eyes. She didn't answer. Instead, she reached into a bag and pulled out a thin envelope, sliding it across the table toward me. For Harper, she said. My fingers closed around the envelope before I could think. It was weighty, not in cash visible, but in substance. An invitation, maybe a check. I flipped it open. Inside was a simple card. A children's charity gala, an elegant black tie event, with a line that read Harper Ryan, guest of honor. My mouth dried. She doesn't even know you. You're a good father, Elena said, and you're honest. I don't want my money to buy people. I want it to help the right causes, people who actually need it. Harper's art program was on my list. I asked my assistant to find local kids doing something creative, meaningful. I asked him to make a small gesture. I swallowed. This is huge. Isn't it? She looked away quickly, which is why I wanted to offer it discreetly. You don't have to accept. My mind did a slingshot between gratitude and suspicion. Why would a billionaire give my daughter a gala invitation? Why pick us when the city brims with cause-worthy kids? I should have been flattered. Flattery is rare in my life. But instead I felt the subtle tug of something else, the sense that any kindness from a world carried strings even when hidden. Is there a catch? I asked, because my trust had been honed by years of being let down. She laughed, short, without humor. Always. I'll be there. That's the catch. I want to see you both in a different light. To say thank you. To meet the kid whose dragon drawings impress me. And if I say no, then you say no. Her voice steadied. But you should know I don't often ask for conversations with strangers. I ask because you did something for me without thinking. That matters. We spoke for a while longer. About Harper's art, about how trauma from my marriage shifted the way I parented, about how Elena rarely trusted anyone. Each anecdote unfurled a little more of who she was, not only a woman trapped by wealth and expectations, but someone shaped by them. When I left the coffee shop that day, the envelope burned in my pocket like a second heartbeat. The night of the gala felt like stepping into a film set. There were valet attendants, tuxedos, people who seemed sculpted into their roles, smiles perfected, hands practiced in polite gestures. We didn't belong, Harper and I, but Elena had sewn us a thread into this fabric. She met us at the stays, resplendent in a navy gown that made her look ancient and tired and gorgeous all at once. For a moment, I hated the way the room quieted when she entered, the way eyes tracked her, the way power has a shape people instinctively recognize. Elena, I said, trying not to sound too awed. She smiled, and this time it wasn't guarded. Elena, you look beautiful, Harper whispered, wide-eyed. She squeezed my hand. Dad, everyone looks like movie people. I chuckled, kissed Harper's hair. That's the point. Bug. Tonight we're in a movie. We moved through the crowd. Servers offered trays with tiny, delicate bites. A string quartet swelled in a corner, the music like a velvet hand smoothing everything into place. Elena's world was curated down to the last thread. Thank you for coming, Elena said as we reached the quieter corner. Her voice was steady, practiced. I'm glad you accepted. It's overwhelming, I admitted. She smiled without apology. I'm glad you feel that. That means I did something right. Later, as Harper sat on the edge of the stage watching performances with unabashed fascination, I found myself talking to Elena alone. You don't have to live like that, I told her, meaning the life of public scrutiny and obligations. She turned her face to me, and the gleam in her eyes was something that had been hidden before, an ember of danger maybe, but also of fierce resolve. I don't get to decide that. You can leave. She let out a sound that was half laugh, half sob. Leave to where, Ryan? Money isn't a prison built of concrete. It's a milieu of expectations. Leave, and you cut off more than yourself. You cut off people who rely on you. Do I want to be free? Yes, but I don't want liberation at the cost of other people's lives. I thought of Harper, of the small apartment, single-wall-themed world where dragons and superheroes ran the day. Elena's logic began to make a kind of terrible sense. We spoke less about grand escapes and more about small rebellions, tiny tweaks that might shift power in quiet ways. It felt absurdly intimate, like plotting a heist but for dignity instead of jewels. Then, halfway through dessert, the lights dimmed and someone took the stage to tell a story about an abused child whose life had been changed by the same charity. The story's cadence tugged at something in me. I thought of Harper at 7. The way she used colored pencils like swords, the way she sketched hope with a fierce disregard for realism. That's when a man in the crowd stood up. His voice boomed in the silence, authoritative and suddenly familiar. Elena Serrano. Everyone turned. My stomach dropped. I knew that voice even before I saw the face, because Daniel had tasted the word Elena like a badge the first day I'd stepped between them. He stepped into the light as if he belonged on that stage. Polished, charming, wearing a smile that didn't reach his eyes. He took the microphone with an ease that was practiced. "Aren't we all gathered here for the same reason?" he called. Elena's face went slack, a visible hitch of breath. My body arranged itself between her and him on instinct, a reflex born in kitchens after midnight when threats took the shape of words and raised hands. "Daniel." Elena's voice was brittle, not loud. Her hand found mine for the smallest, most private second. I felt the tremor. He tilted his head. "Small world," he said, and leaned in just a fraction too close. His smile was saccharine. "I had no idea you'd bring new friend tonight." The crowd murmured, some whispering curiosity, others a polite closetings of high society gossip. Someone else might have let the moment diffuse. Instead, Daniel kept speaking, battering away at the edges with polished malice. "This charity is beautiful," he said, "but let's not forget that appearances can be deceiving. We should ensure the—" "Elena Serrano is not above repairing reputations," Elena replied before I could stop her. There was steel in her voice now. I felt cold and knew the danger had shifted from hypothetical to immediate. Daniel's smile thinned. He stepped closer, too close. "I thought you appreciated transparency. Perhaps you're the one with things to hide." A ripple of unease moved through the room. Elena's eyes hardened. "You will not speak like that." He shrugged with theatrical injury. "I'm merely an honest man." That small phrase, an honest man, was a weapon he used to disguise many things. I saw the way Elena's fingers dug into my palm, a tiny plea that was loud as a siren. "Leave," I told him quietly, voice steady but low. The word landed like a challenge. Daniel laughed, the sound a blade. "What are you going to do, Ryan? Take the microphone." There was a dense stillness. Harper looked up at me, eyes wide as saucers, confusion and fear and trust all mixed. And then Daniel did what he did best. He smiled, charming and cruel, and said, "You don't belong here." My mouth went dry. The room tilted, and for a moment I felt the urge to prove him wrong, not with fists, but with the fact that I had a right to be anywhere my daughter was welcome. But words lodged in my throat like stones. Elena pulled away just enough to compose herself, voice low as she said, "Not tonight, Daniel." He shrugged, his presence a lingering threat. "Keep telling yourself that." He retreated into the crowd, melting into the night like smoke. After he left, the gala felt deflated, as if someone had pricked the elegant balloon and the air would never fully return. Elena stared at the spot he'd vacated like it had infected the carpet. "Are you okay?" I asked. She closed her eyes for a second, then opened them with a hard, forced smile. "I will be." But the tremor in her hand told otherwise. That night, after we left, after the valets and the chandelier glare and the polite goodbyes, Harper fell asleep in the car on my shoulder, a small weight of lace and perfume and trust. Elena walked me to my car under the fluorescent halo of the parking structure. No photographers, no board members, just us, and the echo of the gala's piano fading behind us. "Thank you," she said finally, voice low. "For?" I asked. "For staying. For not leaving when it got uncomfortable." Her gaze flicked to my daughter asleep in the back. "For being the kind of man who doesn't show off heroics but steps up anyway." "For getting me into a room full of strangers," I said, half joking. She smiled, a small, secret smile. "I wanted you to see that it's complicated, that there are faces in my life that make things messy for reasons I won't let you shoulder." I looked at her, at the way the fluorescent light softened the lines on her face into something fragile and real. "I don't want to be part of your problems," I said. "If this is risky for you, I don't want to add to the risk." "You already did," she said. "You stepped into one of my moments. That changes the odds. Whether that's good or bad, I don't know." She leaned forward and touched my cheek with an almost motherly gentleness. "But thank you Ryan, for being uncalculated. Her fingers lingered longer than necessary, enough to send a small, dangerous electricity through me. When I drove home that night, the city felt quieter, like a held breath. Harper slept undisturbed. Elena's name sat in my head like a slow ache. I knew, on some level, that by saying yes to her gala invitation, I'd stepped onto a map I didn't understand. I also knew I couldn't simply unstep it. Somewhere between the parking structure and our apartment, a thought grew. What if this wasn't just about her? What if Daniel's threats had deeper rot? Someone waiting to make sure Elena paid for refusing him. And what would that mean for me? For Harper? For the life I'd been quietly building? I clicked off the ignition and sat in the dark for a long moment, the dead city hum pressing at the edges of my ears. The envelope in my pocket, Harper's gala card, felt like a compass pointing toward danger and possibility. Both. I didn't know the shape of betrayal yet. I only knew it would come, like a tide, and when it did I'd have to decide whether to fight, flee, or brokenly, helplessly, watch it swallow the shore. I didn't hear from Elena for 3 days. Not a text. Not a missed call. Not a sighting in the coffee shop where our conversations had begun. Her sudden absence gnawed at me in a way I wasn't proud of, like I'd gotten used to something I had no right to rely on. But every time doubt swelled, I reminded myself she had a life built on pressure points. I was a stranger who had wandered into a storm. Still, somewhere on Tuesday afternoon, while I folded Harper's laundry, while I microwaved leftover pasta, while I checked work emails I didn't want to answer, I kept glancing at my phone. Nothing. It wasn't until Wednesday evening, when I was cleaning up dinner plates, that someone knocked on my door. 3 short taps. Not frantic, not timid, just deliberate. Harper was in the living room painting a dragon with 5 mismatched wings. I wiped my hands on a dish towel and opened the door, and froze. Elena. She stood shivering under the hallway's dull yellow lights, hair tangled by wind, breath hitching in tiny uneven pulls. Her coat was soaked with drizzle, mascara smudged faintly beneath her eyes, as if she hadn't slept. Something was very wrong. "Can I come in?" she whispered. "Of course." She stepped inside, wrapping the coat tighter around herself as the door clicked shut. Harper looked up curiously. "Hi, Miss Elena." "Hi, sweetheart," she said with a small, fragile smile. The second I guided Elena into the kitchen, her facade cracked. She pressed a hand to her forehead, breathing shallowly, almost gasping. "Elena," I said quietly, "what happened?" She met my eyes, and it looked like holding my gaze cost her everything. "I'm in trouble," she whispered. "Worse than before." A ticking fuse. We sat at the table. Harper kept painting in the other room, humming off-key, a strangely comforting innocence amid the tension tightening around us. Elena clasped her hand together, fingers trembling. "Daniel resurfaced," she said, "not just showing up at events or calling. He's taken it further." My jaw tightened. "How far?" She swallowed. "He broke into my apartment." A slow, icy dread slid down my spine. I didn't blink. I didn't breathe. I waited for her to keep talking. "He didn't steal anything," she said. "Not in the usual sense. He went through my files, my safe, my photos, my journals. He wanted leverage." "Did he leave a message?" "Yes." Her voice quivered. "He wrote one sentence on my mirror in red marker." She paused, and when she spoke again, the words came out like acid. "You don't get to leave me." My hand tightened around the edge of the table. Something deep and old inside me, something I hadn't felt since the night I learned my wife had been cheating, flared with familiar blaze. Anger, protective instinct, a sense of injustice so sharp it bordered on violent. "Did you call the police?" I asked. "Yes," she said. "But Daniel is smart. He didn't break anything. No cameras caught him. He knows the building's blind spots. He probably bribed someone to let him in." "And what do the police think?" "That I'm exaggerating. Or paranoid." Her lips twisted bitterly. "Or that I'm painting a bad breakup as a threat." Jesus. She rubbed her wrist again, the same spot Daniel had gripped in the cafe the first day I met her. "I didn't know where else to go," she said softly. Everyone in my world either works for my family or owes them something. I don't trust them. I don't trust anyone except. She didn't finish, but she didn't have to. Her eyes were already on me. A pressure gathered in my chest, warm, terrifying, impossible to name. "Elena," I said quietly, "you're safe here." The words slipped out before I thought them through. But the moment they left my mouth, I meant them. All of them. The first fracture. She covered her face with her hands, just for a moment, but enough for me to see the exhaustion breaking through. "I can't keep running," she whispered. "He's escalating, and I keep thinking what he'll do when he realizes I'm fighting back." "You shouldn't be alone right now," I said. "I know," she said, "which is why I came." That admission hit me harder than it should have. "I'm scared," she said softly. "Not just of him. Of myself. Of the choices I'm making. Of the lines I keep crossing." "You're doing what you have to do." "Am I?" She let out a shaky breath. "Or am I dragging you into a nightmare you never asked for?" My throat tightened, because I had asked for none of this. A single moment at a coffee shop, a simple instinct to help, and suddenly I was neck-deep in a billionaire's private war. "You're not dragging me anywhere," I said. "I'm choosing to be here." Her expression softened as if she didn't quite believe people chose her, chose to help without wanting something in return. "You shouldn't," she whispered. "I could get you hurt. I could get Harper hurt." "Don't worry about Harper. She'll be okay." No, her voice was sharp suddenly. "You can't promise that." I blinked. "Elena." "You're a good father," she said. "You protect her. You give her stability. And I am a shitstorm wearing expensive shoes. I destroy whatever I touch." "That's not true." "You think you know me," she said quietly. "But you don't. Not all of me." I leaned forward, lowering my voice. "Then let me." Her breath hitched, but before she could respond, Harper's voice drifted from the living room. "Dad, can I show Miss Elena my dragon?" Elena smiled, a small, real, aching thing. "Of course," she called back. When Harper ran in with her painting, Elena crouched down and admired it with genuine warmth. But I watched the small tremor in her hand that she tried to hide as she touched the paper. The storm inside her didn't pour for innocence. And looking at her, this powerful, scared, complicated woman kneeling on my kitchen floor, I realized something terrifying. I was already in too deep. A quiet betrayal. After I put Harper to bed, Elena and I sat on the couch. The living room was dim, lit only by a floor lamp. Outside, rain thickened against the windows. I made us tea. She didn't drink haze. "What do you want to do?" I asked softly. She didn't answer right away. When she finally did, her voice was so quiet I almost missed it. "I want to leave the city." "For how long?" "I don't know." "Where would you go?" "I don't know that either." Her eyes were wide, unfocused, like she was seeing a future she couldn't shape. "Ryan," she whispered, "can I tell you something I've never said out loud?" "Yes." She took a breath. I think my family suspected Daniel wasn't right for me. They tried to interfere. I fought them. I defended him. I protected him. I was in love with him." I nodded slowly. "That makes sense." No, she shook her head. "Because even after he started getting controlling, even after he started isolating me, part of me still believed I could save him. That if I just gave enough, tolerated enough, shrank myself small enough, he would become the man I imagined." "Elena." "I betrayed myself long before he ever did," she whispered. The room went still. I didn't know what to say. I just sat there with her truth sitting heavy between us. She continued, voice barely audible. "And now, I don't trust my own judgment. I don't trust the things I feel. I don't trust the people who say they care about me." She looked at me then, really looked at me, and the vulnerability in her eyes was so raw it made my chest ache. "That's why I'm afraid of you," she said. "Afraid of me?" "Yes." "Why?" Her voice cracked. "Because you're the first person I wanted to trust in a long time." Silence settled like a heartbeat. Slow, heavy, gathering something unsayable. I reached over and placed my hand on Hayes, gently, as if touching a wound. "Elena," I said quietly, "you can trust me." For a second, she let herself believe it. I saw it in the way her shoulders loosened, in the way her breath softened. But then her phone buzzed. A single notification. She flinched violently. "Don't," I said. "Don't look." But she already had. Her face drained of color. I read the message over her shoulder. "You were with him tonight. Nice apartment. Cute kid." My stomach plummeted. "Elena," I said, voice low and dangerous, "how does he know where we live?" Her lips trembled, but she didn't answer, because she didn't have to. Somewhere inside me, a silent truth snapped. We weren't safe. Not her. Not me. Not Harper. This wasn't just stalking anymore. This was intrusion, possession, a warning. And in the reflection of the window behind her, I saw something I had avoided naming until now. There were things Elena wasn't telling me. Things that could tear apart everything I thought I understood about her. Or about myself. The air felt wrong. Too still. Too aware. As if the apartment itself had overheard the message and was holding its breath. Elena's hand shook so badly she nearly dropped the phone. I took it from her gently, set it on the coffee table, screen down. "Look at me," I said. She didn't at first. When she finally raised her eyes, they were glassy, full of fear, but something deeper too. "Guilt." "Elena," I whispered, "how does he know where we live?" Her lips parted, but no words formed. Her gaze darted toward the window as if expecting Daniel's face to appear in the rain-thickened glass. "I'm so sorry," she breathed. "I didn't mean for this." "How?" I asked again, calm but unyielding. "Tell me the truth." She pressed a hand to her mouth, inhaling like someone drowning. "I think he followed me," she said. "But that's not all." My stomach tightened. "What else?" She looked at me with an expression I'd never seen on her, an admission forming beneath her skin before she could shape it into words. "I wasn't honest with you," she whispered. "About what? About who?" "Elena," I said, voice barely above a breath. "Whatever it is, I need you to tell me. I have a daughter here. I need to understand the danger." Her breath quivered. I think Daniel's been tracking me for weeks," she said. "Not following. Tracking." "How?" My voice sharpened unintentionally. Her throat bobbed. "My phone. My car. Possibly other things." The silence that followed felt like a cliff edge. "Other things," I repeated quietly. "Like what?" She wrapped her arms around herself, curling inward. "Like, I think he had access to my security systems," she said. "Maybe even my assistance devices. I don't know. I'm not a technical expert. But I know he worked in cybersecurity before he joined one of our companies. And you didn't tell me. I didn't want to drag you into it. You already did." "I know." She closed her eyes. "I'm sorry." I stood up, pacing, running a hand through my hair. A pulse thudded behind my temple. "Ryan," she said, small, uncertain. "Say something." "What do you want me to say?" I whispered harshly, that I'm okay with someone unstable knowing where my child sleeps, that this is just another problem we can talk through like you're not in the middle of a war. Her face crumpled. "I shouldn't have come," she said. "I put you both in danger. I knew it, and I came anyway." "Why?" I asked. "Why us?" She inhaled, shaking. "Because you're the only place I felt safe in months. And I needed..." She broke off, pressing her fingers to her lips as if containing the words hurt. "I needed someplace human, someplace real, someone who didn't want something from me." My anger softened, just slightly, but the fear didn't. "We need to leave," I said. "Tonight." Her eyes widened. "Where?" "My brother's house. An hour away. He's a cop, former military. Nobody knows his address. It's not online. Not in a database. It's safe." She swallowed hard. "Okay," she whispered. "Let's go." Packing in the dark, we moved quietly through the apartment. Harper was asleep, sprawled across her blankets with her dragon painting drying on the nightstand. The sight of her innocence, her soft breathing, her messy ponytail, stabbed something sharp and protective into my chest. I packed a bag first. Clothes, toothbrush, favorite stuffed fox. Elena helped, her hands gentle even as they trembled. "Ryan," she murmured, "I'm so sorry." "Let's just get out," I said. "We'll talk later." Her eyes shone with something like grief. While I loaded the bags into the car, Elena slipped briefly into the bathroom. When she returned, she looked different, not physically, but emotionally sorted, the way someone looks after they press a secret back into its box. "Ready?" I asked. She nodded, but before we made it to the door, a small voice came from the hallway. "Dad!" Harper stood rubbing her eyes. "Where are we going?" I knelt, gathering her into my arms. "A little trip. Bug," I said softly. "Adventure night." She blinked sleepily, then smiled. "Are we bringing Miss Elena?" "Yes." "Okay," she said, trusting me without hesitation. Good. That trust was a weight and a blessing. Highway shadows. The drive out of the city was thick with rain, the highway reflecting the red and white blur of cars like smeared paint. Harper slept in the back. Elena sat rigid in the passenger seat, twisting her fingers in her lap. I kept checking the mirrors, expecting headlights that didn't belong. Halfway down the freeway, Elena finally spoke. "You hate me," she whispered. "No," I said. "I'm angry, but I don't hate you." "You should. Don't tell me what I should feel." Silence stretched. She looked out the window. The reflection of streetlights carved her face into sharp planes, tired, haunted, beautiful. "I didn't tell you everything," she said. I gripped the wheel tighter. "Then tell me now." She took a breath. "Daniel and I weren't just engaged," she said quietly. "We lived together. For 2 years. He was charming, brilliant, ambitious. My family loved him. I loved him. You already told me that." "Not the whole part." Her voice trembled. "He started isolating me early, telling me who to trust, who to avoid. He said he understood the world better than I did. He said my judgment was flawed, that I was too emotional, too naive." I glanced at her. "That's how abuse works," I said. She nodded, tears gathering. "I believed him," she whispered. "I believed every horrible thing he said about me." "Elena." "No, you need to understand this part, because it's the part I'm most ashamed of." She turned toward me. "I left him not because I was brave," she said, "but because I found out he was cheating on me, with my assistant." A punch of sympathy hit me. "He betrayed you," I said. "Yes." Her laugh was bitter. But here's the part that makes me sick. I wasn't even angry at first. I was relieved, because cheating gave me a socially acceptable reason to leave. It made me the victim. It meant I didn't have to admit to my family, to the world, to myself, that I'd been living with a man who controlled and diminished me. She wiped her face. I left, but part of me still felt like I'd wronged him. Her voice broke, and because of that tiny, pathetic part of me, I stayed friendly. I stayed reachable. I stayed vulnerable long after the breakup. I gave him a bridge back into my life. I exhaled slowly, the truth heavy but clarifying. "Elena," I said softly, "that doesn't make you pathetic. That makes you human. He manipulated you. He broke things in you. That doesn't mean you deserve what's happening now." She covered her mouth, tears slipping through her fingers. "I'm so tired of blaming myself," she whispered. "Then stop," I said. "Start here, right now." Her breath shuddered. But it wasn't until she looked at me, really looked at me, that I realized something else entirely was breaking inside her. Not trust, not fear. Hope. Dangerous hope. The twist. We were 10 minutes from my brother's rural turnoff when headlights flared behind us. Bright, sudden, too close. My pulse spiked. Elena stiffened. "Ryan." "I see it." The car behind us surged closer, then backed off, then surged again. Predatory. Testing. "Is it him?" she whispered. I didn't know, but my gut said yes. I pressed the accelerator. So did he. The rain hammered the windshield. The wipers struggled. Harper slept on, unaware of the mounting terror. "Elena," I said tightly, "call my brother. His number is in my phone. On the dash." She reached for it with shaking hands. The car behind us lurched forward, swerving. A flash of metal. A spray of water. "Ryan!" Elena cried. "I've got it," I said, though my hands were slick with sweat. But then, the car behind us veered suddenly into the next lane and sped past. Fast. Too fast. We watched its tail lights disappear into the rain. It wasn't chasing us. It wasn't Daniel. It was just a reckless driver. I exhaled shakily, adrenaline still spiking. Elena's hands clutched the dashboard. "I can't do this anymore," she whispered. And then, buzz! Her phone lit up. One message. From an unknown number. I didn't want to look. But she did. And her breath left her body in a small, broken sound. "What is it?" I whispered. She turned the screen toward me. A photo, taken through a car windshield. Our car. On the highway. At that exact moment. And beneath it, one sentence. "I told you. You don't get to leave me." A cold shock tore through me. The car that passed us wasn't reckless. It was surveillance. A warning. A promise. A leash. My grip on the wheel tightened until my knuckles ached. "Elena," I said, voice low and trembling with fury, "we're going to end this, one way or another." Her fingers found mine, desperate, terrified, trusting. "Ryan." "We'll keep Harper safe," I said. "We'll get help. Real help. My brother. Federal contacts. Whatever it takes." "And Daniel," she whispered. I met her eyes. "Daniel is going to learn what it feels like to lose control." Her breath shook. Outside, the rain thickened, blurring the world into streaks of white and red. But inside the car, something sharpened, resolve, fierce and unshakable. This wouldn't end with running. This would end with truth, with confrontation, with betrayal laid bare. Not just Daniel's betrayal of Elena, but Elena's betrayal of herself, my betrayal of my own caution, and the betrayal waiting in the shadows of a past that she still hadn't told me. But one thing was clear. Whatever came next, we were already past the point of turning back. And in that dark, rain/night, with danger tightening around us like a fist, that was the moment everything truly began.